Good evening and welcome to another VerbLink class. Tonight's class is on project management, dealing with the project scope management knowledge area. This class is a conversation class where we'll have discussions using business terminology related to project management. We'll get started shortly.
It's okay if you can go there a little bit earlier, right?
Hello, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. Chair.
Hello.
Hi, where are you from?
Excuse me.
Where are you from?
Okay, I am from Brazil. My internet is a little bit slowly now.
I see that, or I hear that. That's okay, it happens sometimes.
Okay.
All right, terrific. Well, guys, welcome to my class. I'm just going to go around and do some introductions for now. Let's see here. Just give me a second. Here we go. Raphael, welcome to my class. Good to see you, my friend.
Hello, Simon. Good to see you too as well.
Yeah, I know that 5 o'clock or 5 o'clock my time is not the best time slot for you, so I'm glad to see you here.
No, actually, there's no problem with the time. It's 6 o'clock here, and that's fine for me.
Oh, good, good. By the way, I just started or opened up a session for tomorrow night at 7. And I know for Adela that's a little late, but for everyone from Brazil, it's a better time zone. It's just a conversation class.
Okay.
Okay, so that should be a lot of fun. All right. Sorry, I seem a little bit distracted. We just had a problem that my wife is dealing with right now. It shouldn't bother us, but I'm just trying to get my head in the space. I am prepared. I do have all the materials ready to go. All right, Adela. Hello, Adela. Good evening.
Hello, Simon. A little late in Spain, yes.
I know, and I'm so glad you could have it here. Unfortunately, during the weekdays, this is the earliest I can have a class. But Adela, in August, I'm going to try experimenting with different times. I'm thinking on Mondays, maybe I'll do class times starting at 8 o'clock my time, do 8, 9, take an hour break, then do 2 classes, take an hour break, do 2 classes, take an hour break, and do 2 classes. So I'll do 10 classes in Monday. So Mondays will be crazy, but then no matter what time, you'll have a convenient time.
Okay, I try, but I don't know because holidays I traveled normally too.
Excellent. That's terrific. You should. All right, guys, let's get started. So the purpose of this class is twofold. Based on the name, you can tell this is related to project management. But it's not just about project management. It's about conversation. You'll probably get at least 7 minutes of talk time in this class. In my last class, we looked at the PMBOK, which is the Project Management Body of Knowledge. This is put out by the Project Management Institute. This is an international organization that manages the PMP certification. I am a certified PMP, Project Management Professional. We had a discussion about scope management, time, and human resources last week. We talked about an imaginary scenario where we're building a highway from Toronto to Montreal. That's about 500 kilometers. And I said this week we would talk about one of these management knowledge areas. And it's going to be scope management. Now, Raphael, can you tell me what scope management is?
is this defined as a sum of all parameters involved with the project? All the elements involved, and how can I say, uh, the materials, the people involved, the application of the resources, and
Okay, so that you're really covering a lot of detail there, and we're not looking for necessarily a lot of detail. I'll give you guys the definition, but I just want to see what you think scope means first before I give you the definition. Hello, Mohammed. Thank you.
Hello, hi.
Hi, Mohammed. Do you know what scope means in relation to scope project management?
I think it is related to a bird view management. So it is coordination between all types of management.
Okay, it is coordination, but scope itself, I mean, that's more project management. Scope itself, what do we mean when we say scope management? What are we managing? Okay, thank you, Mohammed. That was very good input, though. Let me ask Jar. Jar, what do we mean by scope when we say scope management? What are we managing?
I think we usually manage timeline, cost, quality, and yes, I think in scope of the project we have all the information that you need to develop the project. What are the deliverables? How much you intend to spend? When you need to accomplish some activities or phase of the project? Yeah, it is like a Bible, you know. When you have an adult, you go to the scope and you check if what you are doing is according to the scope, and we can finish the project to attend the some premise.
I think, Jar, that's an excellent description of actual project management. It's not so much of scope. As you notice on the screen here, we have a section for scope as well as a section for time and cost management. So we're not really concerned with time or cost at this point, but I like the way you're thinking. All right, Adela, what do you think scope management is about?
I think it's a core project is the planning that involves to identify, describe the work you need to do the project to finally to have the project.
Brilliant. Yeah. Now, if I was to check the dictionary, and I'm going to share out my entire screen here so that way it's a little easier to see what I'm looking at. Let's share my desktop. So if I look at the dictionary definition, you know, they define scope as the extent of the area of subject matter. Okay, so we're dealing with the extent or of an area of subject matter that something deals with. Okay, so it's a little bit vague, but the key here is the extent. Okay, so let's take a look at this definition, which is right from the PMBOK, and you can see right here it says project scope management includes the processes required to ensure that the project includes all the work required and only the work required. So essentially what scope management is dealing with is making sure the work is done, the work that was promised or asked to be done. That's all it is. So let's think of it this way. We want to build a highway that's 500 kilometers long. Think about that. This big, long highway. It's got 4 lanes. That's the scope. Now, what if I want to add another lane? Well, no, that's not the scope. That's outside of the extent of the work. So think of it at a high level. It's not every detail. It's a high-level summary. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to start doing is I want to give you guys an opportunity to speak. You're going to hear this sound. When you hear this sound, it means your time is up. So I'm going to try and give you guys about 2 minutes of talk time right now. And we're going to have a conversation regarding scope and project management. Before I do that, though, I want to share out a screen. Now, this is really, really boring stuff here, but it's important. Okay? So, Raphael, I'm going to start the timer with you. So can you tell me what you think scope is now? What is the importance of having a project scope?
Since you have your scope defined, you'll be able to measure the other. You'll be able to measure the other aspects of the project management, the time, the application of resources.
Why?
And because since you have defined the amount of work you have to perform and how big is your project, so since you define the size of your project, the scope, you'll be able to define, to be able to at least to define and have an idea of the resources you will apply,
Yeah.
the amount of people you have to apply as well, and the time we're going to spend doing the tasks and everything.
Well, and I think that's very important. So think of it this way. If we know what it is we're going to do, and we've written down what it is we're going to do, and everybody else knows that, now it's possible to be able to worry about the budget and not going over budget, right? To purchase things, to plan. If we don't know the scope, how do we know what needs to be done, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So
what should we do? What's one of the first things we should do with scope management? What do you think?
try to gather the most information as possible about
Okay.
the resources. I think it's the first step is to gather information.
Yeah. It's to collect requirements, right? To find out, right? Oh, it looks like our time is up. It's a good segue, though, because I just asked Raphael, how do we know what our scope is? How do we come up with the scope? How do we know what it is building this big highway? Right? That's a big job. It will cost billions of dollars. All right, let's go. Mohammed, hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Hi, so I'm going to give you 2 minutes of talk time, starting now. I want to ask you the same question I asked Raphael. When it comes to the scope, what's one of the first things we should do?
First, we should, as Rafael said, we should collect the information. What requirement should we meet to achieve this task?
Mm-hmm.
And the boundaries of our project, that what it is inside our project that it should be achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that, we can set our obstacles and the opportunities and everything else that it is related to our project. So based on our scope, we can set the other things like the timeline for the project and the cost. So it is one of the essential, like the mission statement, like the mission of this management group.
Okay, so
This
very
it will be
good.
determined by the scope. Yeah.
All right, so you've still got plenty of time left. So, and don't rush. You've got plenty of time to speak. I want you guys to relax. The slower we speak, the better your English will be. Don't rush. So we can see here, now this is very technical stuff, like I said. What I'm teaching you here today, it's the basis of a certification. This information you can use and study and become a PMP someday. So when we see 5.1, that's not me, that's from PMBOK. But the very first process involves planning scope management. So yes, we have to collect the requirements. But what do you think we have to do? Oh, time is up. Sorry, I hate that. This class I tend to do a bit more speaking than I want to. But I'm going to ask you one last question, Mohammed. Why is it important to plan before we collect the requirements?
Planning will determine many things, such as what people we should hire, what is the cost or the opportunities we have, what things like bureaucratic things should be done, paperwork and the other things, political issues if we have that it is related to our project. Also, if our project it is impossible or possible to be done within the timeline.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, Jar, I'll give you a couple of minutes as well. When we're planning, right, we plan because it's very important. It allows us to organize ourselves, right?
Right.
Do you go on a vacation without doing some planning?
Yes, I usually plan in advance. It depends on the trip, but sometimes.
Why do you plan?
Because during the process we can have some risks that can happen anytime. Like if I go on vacation to an important beach in Brazil, for instance, in the northeast. If I don't plan, I can choose a season that it's raining during all month, for instance, or a season that the price is very expensive, so I can't afford it. And yes, when I plan in advance, I can create a better scope about my vacation. I can evaluate some risks that can happen during the process, and for each risk I can plan.
Okay, so let me stop you there because you're giving me so much information. But I think what's clear to everybody is we plan so that things go smoother.
Yes, sure.
Right? So the next step we do is we then start to collect requirements. Now, I like this definition. Collecting requirements is the process of planning for, defining, and documenting stakeholder needs to meet the project objectives. What's a stakeholder?
Stakeholders are all the people or departments that can be impacted.
Sorry about that. Our time is up.
For your project.
Okay, so that's a good. I like that. Let's see who is next. I'm losing my. Was that you speaking, Jar, or Mohammed? That was Jar. Sorry, I am going mental. I got to get my memory checked. Adela, what are your thoughts on a stakeholder? What do we think of when we think of the term stakeholder?
I think it's necessary to have a structure about the project. Is to create, I think, the work basic structure.
No, it's really not that. It's a. No. I'll give you a hint. A stakeholder is a person, right?
Ah, sorry. No, I think no. Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay. So what is a stakeholder? What is a project stakeholder?
Stakeholders, maybe I don't. Is when you don't have the goals clear. I don't know exactly. Sorry.
Okay, let me try and help you. Let me see if I can give you a hint. If I have a stake in a project, what would I be considered? You have a stake in a project. What would I call you?
Maybe a stake is don't follow the project. You have a.
So if you have a stake in the project, what would I call you? This would be a noun. You have a stake in a project, so I would call you this.
I don't know. Sorry. You are a part of a project. You have interested on the. I don't know.
I wouldn't call you a part of the project because that'd be that'd be a mouthful to say, to call Adela a part of the project.
Stake is a stick, same as stick, no? No.
Okay. No, let's see, Raphael. What would if you had a stake in a project? What would I call you?
Stakeholder.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mohammed, if you were a stakeholder, what is significant about that word? What is a stakeholder? What are characteristics of a stakeholder?
I will be one of the beneficiaries from this project.
You would be, yes. You would be a beneficial from a project. Jar, what else would you be if you're a stakeholder?
I think stakeholders are someone that can impact your project negatively or positively. Yes. For instance, if you have a strong stakeholder, they can help you to reach your goals on time. They can help you with the project, and we usually evaluate the stakeholders in the beginning of the project to make sure that.
Because what you said, you answered it very well right away. So Adela, what Jar had said is that a stakeholder is somebody that has a positive or negative interest in a project.
Yes, affected, positive or negative, or have an interested people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, this is one of those terminologies that you need to understand. And Jar, obviously you understand it very well. But a stakeholder is anyone that has an interest in a project. Interest or concern. It could be positive or negative, but they are impacted by that project. Okay, so I want to give you guys about another 2 minutes, and what we're going to talk about are possible. Sorry, Raphael.
Sorry, a quick question. A client is a client a stakeholder? For instance, when we are constructing a bridge, a driver who passes through this bridge is a stakeholder.
Yes, they are. Now, continuing with that, imagine building the highway. I want you to identify other stakeholders. What are other potential stakeholders on a bridge? A bridge building sorry, not a bridge. A highway building project. Name some stakeholders.
Maybe
the
people.
Manager.
Oh, sorry.
The project manager is obviously a stakeholder, yes, but what else?
People have the earth.
Just a minute,
you build.
Adela?
People.
Adela, just a minute. It's Raphael's.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Raphael.
Let me see. The workers who are constructing the bridge.
Why? Why are they stakeholders? Why do they have an interest?
Because they want to get paid.
Yeah.
They receive a salary. And
they want to get paid, and obviously there's a cost to the project. Who else would be a stakeholder? Where are we building? What cities are we building this between?
Toronto.
Do you think the people of Toronto would be stakeholders?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And what's the other city that we're building the highway to?
Montreal.
Would they be stakeholders?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
The construction company and the city hall.
Yes, very much so, but that was actually Raphael's term, but that's okay.
No, okay, you can answer. No problem.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, guys, I want to get away from time because this is a small group, and I want to have it more dynamic. So, Mohammed, very good. So, why those people? Why would they be stakeholders?
Because they are, in some way or another, will be beneficial from this project. Like the city hall will get more members or more community members who will be with them and encourage them to build more project. And the construction company, because it will initiate and build physically this project.
Okay, so the cities will attract more business, right?
Correct.
Okay. What else?
Landowners that expropriate the land to build the highway.
I was waiting for somebody to suggest that. Yeah, so we're going to expropriate land. Do you think those people are going to be positive stakeholders? Do you think they're going to be happy?
Maybe if they pay a lot, yes, but it's not normal.
Well,
They are a negative thing. Because
it could be now we're a government, so we can acquire the land. It's part of our laws and statutes that governments can acquire land when it's for the better good of everybody. But generally, governments don't offer more than the land is worth. They offer what they consider fair value. So Adela, it's pretty good likelihood that they're not going to be happy with the project, are they?
I think not be happy with the money.
All right. Jar, who else would not be happy with the project?
Maybe the other private companies that work with transportation, because if you build a highway, for instance, maybe they can lost part of their business and they can try to lobby the government and the politicians.
Like railways or shipping, right?
Yes, sure.
So they're not looking forward to this, but trucking companies would love it because now they can be more efficient.
Yes.
Okay. So to summarize, guys, stakeholders are very important to our project. We want to be aware of all those who have a negative impact because that will affect our project. Environmental assessments. We might have environmental groups that are very unhappy with where we're building the highway. That could delay our project getting the assessments completed and certificates. But looking back at what project scope management is, it's a very important stage because by collecting these requirements, identifying the stakeholder needs, we're able to define the scope better. So we already knew that we were going to build a highway because one of our politicians said, hey, we're going to build a highway between Toronto and Montreal, 4 lanes wide, 100-kilometer speed limit. Excellent. So we take that information, those high-level requirements, and we start talking to stakeholders, positive and negative. And one thing we realized very quickly, think about this, guys. We've got 500 kilometers. How many roads are straight? Raphael, are most roads straight between one point to another, or do they curve?
It's very difficult to find a straight road. I don't think they are straight roads. A lot of them have curves.
Why?
I think almost all of them. Because there are obstacles in the way.
Obstacles. Okay, so Mohammed, what kind of obstacles do we have?
Such as building or natural obstacles like mountains, and other things like lakes, rivers.
Good. So we have those things that we've got an idea of where we want to build it, but because we talk to our stakeholders, we talk to the environmental groups, and we find out that if we want to get these stakeholders on board, we might have to change the direction of the highway, adding more kilometers but increasing the cost. So Jar, imagine that we talked to some stakeholders and we found out that they will support us if we direct the highway 10 kilometers to the east, but this will cost us more money. Would it be worthwhile to do that, do you think?
Yes, if the stakeholders are strong, they can stop your project, and sometimes it is more important to.
So that's a very good point. Adela? Adela?
Yes.
Okay, so work with me here. Now imagine that we're planning the scope for this highway, and I've told you that, look, if we go ahead and divert the highway 10 kilometers, it'll cost us probably an extra $10 million, but we won't have anybody from the environmental group protesting the project. They'll support us. What would you do? Would you agree to the extra $10 million, or would you say, no, we've got to stick to our original plan?
And maybe if your plan is correct because they are a previous impact environmental project.
Yeah.
At least in Spain is that you can continue. The problem is maybe if they try to stop the work or same. I think I try to agree to arrive an agreement with the environmental organization or same.
Well, yeah, think about
Because
this. It's
invest
cost.
the cost is not as supportable. I think is not possible to increase.
Well, let me stop you there because I want to point something out. The hint was, and when I said that it would cost an extra $10 million. So if somebody tells you it's going to cost an extra $10 million, but we can get it done on schedule, you're hearing two things. It costs $10 to maintain schedule. So my next question will be, how much would it cost us if the schedule was delayed, right?
Maybe more.
Yeah,
Maybe
and that's
you need to analyze.
exactly, right? So that's very important. So this process on a project this big could take a long time. Okay, so once we've received all our requirements, we've looked at our scope, and we say, okay, we know we're going to build a highway between these two cities. It's going to take this long. We've got all the requirements. We know the materials we're going to use. We know the companies we're going to use. Probably, maybe not. Depends on our regulations. But once we have all this information, we can create something called a WBS. Does anybody know what that is?
This
Well,
work.
weakness,
No, it's not.
strength. Sorry.
No, not
Work
weakness.
basic structure.
Work breakdown structure. What is that, Adela? What is a work breakdown structure?
I think is to structure at different level phases about the project or same a package to have the big packaging the project.
Okay, good.
In different.
Let me see what Jar thinks. Jar, tell me what you think a work breakdown structure is.
Work breakdown structure, I think, is like a puzzle, you know. If you have a picture, the project is the whole picture, and you break your project in small parts that you can manage better each part to make sure that you deliver the right part of the project on time, on cost, and quality. For instance, in the end, you join each part again to finalize the project, something like that.
Okay, I think that's pretty good. I like what I heard. Mohammed, anything you care to add to that definition that Adela and Jar gave us on a work breakdown structure?
It is dividing the project into several stages. Each stage should be met to transfer to the other stage.
Dividing what though? So what are we dividing? It sounds like obviously we've got a greater level of detail, but more detail than what?
Like the first stage will be gathering information and analyzing them, and the
Yes.
second stage will, and so on. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to see if I'm looking for something in particular. Let's see if Raphael knows what I'm looking for. So Raphael, we build out this detail, work packages, where we have an idea of scope, schedule, and cost for individual pieces. But we're breaking it down from what? What's this class about?
Scope.
Yeah. We define our scope, right? So once we have that, then we create the work breakdown structure. So we have our scope to build the highway. And now we think, okay, so the first work package might be get environmental impact assessment, right? Or maybe the first work package might be engage community stakeholders, have town meetings, review the requirements, right? That could take 2 years. We know that might cost a certain amount of money, so engage community stakeholders. Duration 2 years, starting June 2015. Budget $700,000. It's more detail than the scope, and that's part of the work breakdown structure. So now I'm going to start asking you guys what kind of work packages would be involved in building a highway. So Raphael, name a work package that we would have in building a highway.
Deforestation.
Okay, so let's not call it deforestation because there might not be any forest. So what else might we call that then?
Prepare an environment, prepare the lands.
Okay.
Prepare
So we'll call that preparing the land because that might be removing trees, it might be filling in valleys, it might be grading the land, right?
Right.
Okay, so we want to prep the land. How much time do you think something like that would take?
For 500 kilometers, maybe 9 months or a year.
Yeah, it's definitely not a couple of months, isn't it? It's a long time, and it depends on how big the company is, right?
Right.
So, yeah, we would have a large time. Now, how much do you think something like that would cost?
$75 million.
Yeah, it could be 75 million, could be a couple of billion. We don't know, but it's a large number. But again, that work package will detail high-level work. We will grade the land. We would prepare the land for the highway. Estimated duration, 1 year. Estimated budget, $75 million. Thank you, Raphael. Mohammed, can you think of another work package involved in building a large highway like that?
I think calling for the construction companies will have a great deal with this. So we should first announce in the newspaper and then receive and then analyze the construction companies' deals.
Okay, so that's would be a procurement engagement. Procurement engagement. Okay, so what would we do as part of this procurement engagement? What are the steps that we would do?
First, we should announce and then receive the deals, and then analyze and choose the perfect or the ideal deal, and then initiate the project.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So before we announce it, shouldn't we have some sort of request for proposal, RFP?
Sure. In the announcement itself, it should specify the requirement that the construction company should take care, and like the timeline and other restriction, like the environmental restriction, which is based on the previous stages, like the collecting the information.
Okay, good. So everything we've done so far, the scope, the work breakdown structure, the background, the history behind this highway, where we're building it, why we're building it, we're asking essentially for a company to bid on this project based on the information that we have available to them. Excellent, I like that. All right, JAR, what could be another work package?
I think another package could be to buy the products to build the highway.
Okay, the materials, the aggregate.
Yes, or the material that you use.
Why is this
Right.
important?
Yes, because you need the material and you need to know the timeline when each material will be available or delivery from your suppliers to build the highway or some parts of the highway. So if you don't have the material, you can't advance in your project.
Okay, so yeah, it's important. So we need to identify the materials to be used. Now, on a project this large, that's going to be in the multiple billions of dollars. It's huge. So do we use
Yes.
concrete, or do we use concrete and asphalt? When building the asphalt, do we use 3/4 inch gravel? What kind of gravel do we use? What stone is used?
Yes, you need to create a technical specification to the purchase department, buy the correct product, and the supplier, when you request for information, for instance, in the first contact, to provide a quote price, they need to know the specification. And maybe...
Okay, let me ask you one last question before I go to Adela. So if I'm building a highway, a company's got to think of, well, which materials do I use? Do I use the really good stuff or the really crappy stuff? Good stuff lasts longer, crappy stuff doesn't. So what's one of the things I should write into this proposal so that they bid for the right stuff?
I think you should have a great technical specification about the asphalt.
You could.
And a product with better quality, but you know, you have different qualities, so we need to specify according to the place where you intend to build it.
Couple of things here. One, yes, you can detail it all out, and then you're essentially doing a request for tender because you've identified everything that needs to be done. Or what you say is, you know what? This highway must survive for 100 years. It must survive for 50 years before we resurface the tarmac. Now you let the vendors propose the technologies they'll use. If you specify the exact materials, it doesn't allow them to use their subject matter expertise to propose maybe new technologies. Okay, so
yes,
remember,
I know
the balance between detail, you know, here's your requirement, or here's a lot of detail.
Yes, but you know, it depends it depends on the project, because you can just specify a performance, like you said.
It does.
Life expectation, and the supplier will be responsible for everything.
Yes. All right, I got to move on to Adela because we're eating up a lot of time here, and I love the conversation, but I want to give everybody a fair chance. So Adela, there's lots of work packages that we would still need on a project of this scale. Can you think of another work package that we would need?
I don't know exactly the package necessary for a highway, but machinery in each one phase or in each way. For example, to extend the tarmac, to have I think they need to control a machinery necessary to have this machinery in this moment because
Sorry, which
if
word are you saying? The machinery?
machinery or machine,
Maturity?
big machine, no,
Machinery.
machinery
Okay.
to extend the tarmac or to push the tarmac or a lot of the things. I need to not mm, have the machinery in the moment you need.
Okay.
Is to control the time, to control to have the machinery and the worker do the um, to the machinery to have.
So,
I
what
think
stage will we need this machinery? When do we need the machinery? For what purpose?
is depend to the phases. Maybe if you the highway you can determine different phases and to work for a not a big kilometer but 20 kilometer or that was for me phases, and these phases you need to control. For example, in Spain, they work more or less this
Can you raise
in
it?
phases.
Can you? Okay, we're getting down into a lot of detail, and I don't want to get into a lot of detail yet. So, at a high level, why do we need machinery? For what parts of the project? What is the machinery going to do for us?
You need to I don't know the process to plane the terrain.
Okay, good. So we need to grade the land, right?
You need to extend the stone.
Okay, so we need to lay down the aggregate, the stone, ready for
Yeah,
the
to
everything
have
for the concrete. Yeah.
tracks to with stone and another compounds. After you maybe a rain to liquid tarmac.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know. And after they start to put the tarmac in different think
Well,
in
let me stop you there because I think you've talked about a couple of things. Now, earlier on, Raphael had talked about grading the land. Now, we've already created a work package for that. So in this case here, what you've talked about affects multiple work packages. So we would go back to Raphael's work package and say, let's go back. You were talking about grading. Do we need to put anything in there regarding heavy machinery? Maybe, maybe not, right? For the paving part of the project, well, we need to identify any requirements for heavy machinery there. Now, like you guys, I don't know a lot about building roads, but I do know this. Having the right tools for the right job is important. And so, as you've seen right here, we've just done some brainstorming. What do we need to do? We know our requirements. So what do we have to do? We start writing down. We would do this in a boardroom. We'd write down, okay, we need permits, we need materials, we need labor, we need machinery, we need contractors. And you start writing it all out. Then you start organizing it into work packages. Nobody has mentioned people yet. I was the first person to mention we would need people. But it's a large project. So I want to go back. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to talk a bit more about scope. So Raphael, what is scope? And I'm actually going to set the timer for 2 minutes each this time. Otherwise, we won't have enough time if we go 4 minutes apiece. So you've got 2 minutes. Tell me, Raphael, what scope is and what you've learned in this class regarding scope.
I believe that scope is everything which we need to to execute the project. Materials included, the workers included, all the work included, the requirements, the requirements that must be satisfied in order to ensure that the project will reach the desired outcome in the end. So that's what I understood for it.
Yeah, it's very important. Anything else that you learned from this class related to scope?
That we need to divide, create divisions of the scope. Since you have gathered the requirements or defined the requirements, you frame them, you organize them in smaller pieces in
Work
order
breakdown
to
structure.
yes, work breakdown structure, and you, since you have this structure framework, it'll become easy to match them, to conclude them, and to finish the project at the end.
Yeah, I think that's all very important. Anything else you want to add? Sorry, we're having an earthquake here.
Oh my god. uh,
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
No worries. So, Mohammed,
Yeah.
what have you learned about scope and scope management?
Scope management should be set up in the earliest stages of initiating any project. It includes knowing the stakeholders and how to satisfy them, not completely or 100%, but as much as possible. Also setting or defining or determining every aspect of the project, includes the time, the budget, and everything else. Like I said in the comments, if it will be in-source or outsource, all this information should be figured out in scope management.
No, actually, that's not true. Your cost, now, when doing the work breakdown structure, yes, we need to have some information about cost, but keep in mind, and I'll show you the screen here, we have other sections. So when it comes to managing the scope, we have the scope management knowledge area. When it comes to managing time and cost, and time is all about activities, we focus on those in those key knowledge areas. So the key point about scope is not about the cost and time, it's about the level of detail, it's about what is included in the project. Okay, that's more what's important. Now, let's not be academic here. You can't just work on scope without touching on time and cost, because you're going to go back and forth. But the key focus of scope management is on scope, though it does touch on time and cost.
Clear.
Okay, great, guys. Now, this is more important if you take the test, okay? So that's why I bring that up. Jar, what can you tell us about scope management and why it's important?
Scope management is what we need to do to accomplish the project, to develop it, yes, to control, not to control, but to make sure that during the project, if there is change, we can look at our scope and we can manage better our project. And in the scope, usually there is an objective about the project as well. So it is very important to have to understand a scope before you start a project, because if you don't understand the scope, you can develop something that doesn't meet the client or someone that is asking you to develop a project.
Okay, good. Now, you've got a minute left, and we haven't talked to Adela yet. it's almost as though when we talked about scope, it's all about building it. Once we have the scope, we put it on a shelf and we can forget about it. Is that correct, Jar?
No, because we need to. Could you repeat the sentence? I didn't get it.
Well, can I change the scope later?
Yes, it is very difficult to keep the scope frozen because sometimes some things happen during the project and you need to look at your scope and sometimes to add some change.
Okay, so the mayor's my friend and he wants to go ahead and make the highway 6 lanes instead of 4. So we can just go ahead and do that, right?
No, because we usually have some people that are interested in the project or they are paying for the project, and if you have any change, we need to apply the change to the, for instance, the board director, and someone need to approve the changes as well.
So what Jar is talking about is change management. And if I open up, yeah, I haven't forgotten about this, guys. If we look right at the end, I know it's a boring document. Validate and control. This is project management speak for saying we need to formalize the scope, communicate it, and we need to monitor it for changes. There's nothing wrong with change. Change is a good thing. What is important, though? Change must be managed. If a mayor wants to change it to 6 lanes, fine. Thank you for that request. I'm going to bring everybody together. We're going to have a discussion. This is the cost, this is the duration, this is the impact. If the mayor says, don't worry, I'll pay for my portion, great. But there's still a delay. There's still some changes that we have to make. So as long as it's managed and communicated, so very good. Adela,
Yes.
what does scope management mean to you based on what you've heard here in this class? What have you learned tonight?
I don't I don't know.
You don't know?
To think about the teacher. The scope for me is to organize the subject for year, and sometimes I use different works, different unit, basic unities, or to have to package the knowledge in 2 or 3 big areas. And after that, I maybe it's a planning to the subject to teach.
Okay, so that's good.
They are goals.
Hold on. Let me talk. Let me go back over what you've said before. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of what you're talking about. So you're a teacher, and what you have now, yours is more operational than project work, but you're still looking at the work that needs to be done, and you're organizing it into sections, which is like taking our work and breaking it down into some sort of structure or work packages, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what else then? What else have you learned in this class related to scope management?
I think it's important the create a structure.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and collect requirement overall about the people involved in the project. I don't remember the word.
That's okay, because part of this class and the reason why I talk about certain things. Excellent. Now write that down, Adela. Write down stakeholders, write down scope, and write down WBS. Those are 3 terms I want you guys to walk away with today. Work breakdown structure, scope, stakeholders. We talked about change last class, but these are very important business terms, let alone project management terms. One last thing, and this question goes to anybody. We talked about the process here. What framework am I using? What organization? where am I getting this information? Plan scope, collect requirements, define scope. Who wrote this information? Where is it coming from?
PMI.
Yeah. The PMI, and it's coming directly from the PMBOK. It's an acronym for the Project Management Body of Knowledge. If you want to become a PMP, you need to understand that book. You need to read it. But the purpose of this class is not to teach you guys to become project managers. Some of you already are. It's to create a conversation around project management vocabulary. And I'm using a highway as an example. Something that we all understand. None of us here understands how to build a highway, but we all know what it is, and we have an idea of what's involved. So next class, I'm going to pick one of the other knowledge areas, and it will likely be time management. Okay? Yeah, look at my schedule. I'm not sure when it is. I've got some family coming in a week, so I don't have a lot of classes this week or next. I did open up a class tomorrow, 1 hour from now. It's a conversation class. I know it's too late for you, Adela. And I'm also going to be opening up a class on Tuesday. Sorry, not Tuesday, on Wednesday if tomorrow's class sells well. But next week, around Thursday, you'll see a lot more classes from me again. But between Wednesday and Wednesday of next week, I do have some company. It could be on Thursday or Friday, but if you go to the classes and you choose classes and you choose the teacher and you choose me, you'll see all my classes for the next 2 weeks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight. Jar Mohammed, it was good to have you too. I've never had you guys in my classes before. So one thing to understand about all my classes, the focus is on getting you guys to speak. In my other conversation classes, you guys will get at least 7 minutes of talk time, and that's with a full class. With a class this size, you guys might get as many as 12 minutes of talk time. Thank you guys very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay, thank you, Simon.
You're welcome. Good night now.
Bye.
Bye.